Let me ask you something. How much of your life are you really controlling? How many times have you blamed someone else, waited for permission, or hoped circumstances would magically align? The truth is, until you take 100% responsibility, nothing changes. Every excuse, every if only, every complaint is holding you back from the life you're capable of living. But the moment you stop pointing fingers, the moment you own every choice, every action, every result, you unlock unstoppable power. Today, I'm going to show you how taking full responsibility isn't a burden. It's the key that changes everything. You know, the moment you decide to take 100% responsibility for your life is the moment everything changes. Not someday, not when conditions are perfect, not when someone else finally sees your value, but right now. Think about it. How many times have you looked around at your life and said, if only this person did this, if only that opportunity had come, if only my parents, my boss, or the economy had been different, I could have succeeded. Every time you say if only, you're giving away your power. You're telling the world, consciously or unconsciously, that something outside of you controls your destiny. And here's the hard truth. No one is coming to rescue you. No one owes you anything. That's not harsh. That's freedom. Because the moment you see it, you see that the only thing standing between you and the life you want is you. Now, that might sound heavy, but let me break it down for you. Responsibility isn't a punishment. It's not some heavy weight that drags you down. Responsibility is the moment you step into your power, when you stop blaming others, when you stop pointing fingers at circumstances, and when you stop living in the if-onlys. You suddenly see that you are the driver of your life. And not just any driver, you are the driver with the keys to everything you've ever wanted. Look, we live in a culture that celebrates blaming. We see it everywhere, on the news, on social media, in our own circles. It's the government's fault. It's the system's fault. It's my boss's fault. We're trained to find someone to hold responsible for our pain, for our frustrations, for our lack of fulfillment. And the thing is, it feels safe. Blaming someone else is easy. It's comfortable. It's a cozy excuse that lets you stay small while the world keeps moving. But here's the kicker. Every time you choose to blame, you give away the one thing that actually matters, your ability to change your life. You see, responsibility is the ultimate power move. It's saying, I don't care what happened to me. I don't care what's unfair. I don't care how many mistakes I've made. I am going to take control right now, and I am going to decide what I do with my life from this moment forward. And when you do that, something magical happens. You stop feeling like life is happening to you, and you start feeling like life is happening because of you. Every challenge, every setback, every disappointment suddenly becomes fuel. It's no longer a reason to complain. It's a reason to grow, to level up, to prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you ever imagined. Think about the difference between someone who blames and someone who takes responsibility. The person who blames is stuck in a loop of frustration. They replay the same scenarios over and over in their mind. Why me? Why this? Why now? It's exhausting, and the truth is, it leads nowhere. The person who takes responsibility, they ask a different question. What can I do? What did I learn? How do I move forward? And that simple shift, the shift from complaining to questioning, from victimhood to ownership, is what separates those who live extraordinary lives from those who just exist. Let me tell you something else. Taking responsibility doesn't mean you caused every problem. It doesn't mean you should feel guilty for what happened. Life isn't fair, and bad things happen to good people all the time. But here's the difference. When you take responsibility, you stop waiting for the world to fix itself. You stop hoping that someone else will solve your problems. You stop giving your power away. Because the truth is, the moment you take responsibility, you are the solution. You are the only one who can truly create the results you want. And here's why this matters so much. When you take responsibility, you stop wasting energy on anger, on resentment, on blame. Imagine the mental space you free up when you stop asking, why me, and start asking, what now? You suddenly have time, focus, and energy to put into action, to put into growth, to put into creating the life you actually want. That's why people who embrace responsibility are unstoppable. They don't wait for permission. They don't wait for the universe to hand them the perfect circumstances. They take what's in front of them and they turn it into opportunity. I want you to feel this deeply. Taking responsibility is not a limitation. It is liberation. It's the only way to truly be free. When you own your decisions, your actions, and your life, no one can control you. No failure can define you. No setback can stop you. You become untouchable because you've accepted the truth. The only person who has the power to create your destiny is you. And here's the final piece of this truth. The moment you take responsibility, your life stops being about luck and starts being about strategy. You stop hoping things will change magically and start asking, what moves can I make today that will get me closer to my vision? You stop focusing on the past and start engineering your future. Every decision, every action, every thought becomes deliberate, and the result, momentum. Momentum compounds. And before you know it, you're living a life that you once thought was impossible because you finally realized that the only thing holding you back was your willingness to own it. So here's my challenge to you right now. Stop blaming, stop pointing fingers, and stop waiting. Look in the mirror and say to yourself, this is my life. I own it. I take full responsibility for it. Because the moment you do, the doors open. Opportunities appear, confidence rises, fear diminishes, and you finally realize that everything you want is within reach because you are the one holding the keys. And that, my friends, is where true transformation begins. Blame feels safe, doesn't it? It's comfortable. There's something almost soothing about pointing at someone else and saying, this isn't my fault. This happened to me because of them. It's a way to protect yourself. It's a way to feel okay while your dreams, your potential, and your life sit on pause. Blame is the excuse we give ourselves to stay small, to stay in the shadows, to stay in the familiar patterns of frustration. It's like a warm blanket that keeps you stuck in the same place while the rest of the world moves forward. And here's the truth. The more you cling to blame, the more it traps you. Every time you point the finger at someone else, you're giving them control over your emotions, your decisions, and your results. Think about it for a second. When you blame someone else, who do you feel powerless against? The circumstances, the boss, the government, the past. And every time you give your power away like that, your life isn't moving forward. It's being held hostage by things you cannot control. And the irony is blaming feels productive. You talk about it, you vent about it, you justify why you haven't achieved what you want. You tell yourself you're waiting for the world to align with your vision. But the truth is blame is the fastest way to make sure nothing ever changes. Here's the problem. When you blame, you focus on what's outside of you instead of what's inside of you. And the inside of you, that's where all the real power lives. Your choices, your decisions, your mindset, your focus, your actions, everything that truly moves your life forward is inside of you. But if your energy is wasted pointing outward, you never tap into it. Every minute you spend blaming is a minute you're not building the life you want. Every excuse is a barrier to growth. Every "it's not my fault" is a chain keeping you from stepping into your potential. Now, let me be clear. Taking responsibility is not about guilt. It's not about shame. It's not about saying you caused everything that went wrong in your life. Life is messy. Life is unpredictable. Life is unfair. Bad things happen to good people. Opportunities are lost. Mistakes are made. But the difference between someone who lives an extraordinary life and someone who doesn't is simple. One person focuses on blame. The other focuses on ownership. One person asks, who is responsible for this? The other asks, what am I going to do about it? One person is trapped and the other is free. And that's the power of taking 100% responsibility. It's the ultimate freedom. When you stop blaming, you stop being a prisoner of circumstances. You stop waiting for someone else to fix things for you. You stop hoping the world will give you permission to succeed. You stop giving your power away, and suddenly everything changes. Because the moment you own your life, you can take action. You can influence outcomes. You can change your trajectory. You go from being a passenger in your own life to being the driver. And when you're the driver, there's nothing that can stop you. I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine a person who blames everything. They complain about their boss, their family, the economy, the traffic, the weather. Every single day is a series of excuses. How do they feel? Tired, frustrated, angry, defeated. And how does that affect the people around them? Their energy is low, their influence is weak, their results are minimal. Now, imagine a person who takes full responsibility. They face challenges head on. They ask, what can I do right now to move forward? They see problems as opportunities. They see setbacks as lessons. Their energy is high. Their focus is sharp. Their impact is massive. Which life do you want? Which life are you willing to claim? Let's talk about the subtle trap of blame. That masquerades as self-protection. You think you're keeping yourself safe by blaming someone else. You think you're avoiding pain by saying, it's not my fault. But in reality, blame is a slow, silent killer of dreams. It keeps you stuck in the same patterns, repeating the same mistakes, never learning, never growing, never becoming the person you're capable of becoming. And the worst part, it feels good in the moment. That's why it's so dangerous. That's why so many people spend their entire lives blaming instead of acting. Here's the key. Every time you blame someone or something, you are giving your power away. And power is the most valuable currency you have. It's the ability to choose your state, to choose your focus, to choose your actions. It's the energy that drives results. And the moment you take responsibility, you reclaim that power. You stop giving it away to circumstances, to other people, to the past. You take it back and suddenly you are unstoppable. Taking responsibility is not easy. It's uncomfortable. It requires courage. It requires self-honesty. It requires looking in the mirror and saying, yes, I could have done more. Yes, I made mistakes. Yes, this is my life and I am going to own it completely. And here's the beautiful part. The moment you do, fear disappears. Doubt disappears. Limitation disappears. Because when you own your life, you realize that you are not a victim. You are not at the mercy of the world. You are a creator. You are a force to be reckoned with. And let me tell you something else. People who take responsibility inspire everyone around them. They lift others up because they show that growth is possible. They lead not by pointing fingers, but by showing how to take action. They become magnets for opportunity because responsibility is attractive. People are drawn to those who own their lives, who face challenges head on, who refuse to be victims. And that is how leaders are born, not from talent, not from luck, but from ownership, from the relentless refusal to blame anyone else for their results. So here's the truth. I want you to feel deep in your bones. Blame is the enemy of progress. Excuses are the enemy of success. And the only way to break free from them is to take responsibility. It's uncomfortable. Yes. It's challenging. Yes. But it is the fastest path to freedom, to growth, to success, to fulfillment, because the moment you stop blaming, the moment you stop making excuses, the moment you say, this is my life and I own it completely, everything changes. Every challenge becomes a lesson. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity. Every failure becomes a stepping stone to something greater. And when you finally realize that, you understand something profound. You're not waiting for luck, for chance, or for someone else's approval. You are the one who decides. You are the one who acts. You are the one who transforms your life. And there is no power greater than that. Blame feels safe, but it's a cage. Responsibility feels risky, but it's freedom. And freedom is everything. Your results are feedback, not failure. I want you to feel that truth in your bones because it is one of the most powerful shifts you can make in your life. Most people see a setback and immediately label it as defeat. They see a mistake and think it's proof they're not capable. They see a failure and feel shame, embarrassment, or hopelessness. And what happens when you do that? You stop, you shrink, you play it safe, you settle for less than you know you're capable of. But the truth is, results are never personal. They are information. They are feedback. They are data points that tell you what works, what doesn't, and what needs to change. Let me ask you something. When you were a child, how did you lead? Learn to walk? Did you walk perfectly on the first try? Of course not. You fell. You fell 100 times, maybe more. And every time you fell, did you say, I am a failure, I will never walk? No, you got up. You looked at what happened. You adjusted your balance. You tried again, and eventually you walked. And then you ran. And then you ran faster. That is the essence of results as feedback. That is the essence of growth. That is the essence of taking responsibility. Every stumble, every misstep, every failure is simply information. It's a signpost showing you where to adjust, how to improve, and what to do next. The people who succeed, the people who create extraordinary lives, don't get it right the first time. They don't even get it right the 10th time. What they do is they look at every result, whether good or bad, and they ask the questions that matter. What did I learn? How can I adjust? What is this telling me? They don't attach their identity to the outcome. They don't say, I failed, therefore I am a failure. They see the result as a message, a guide, a tool for growth. And that mindset is what separates those who achieve greatness from those who spend their lives wishing, hoping, and blaming. Here's the secret most people miss. Results are honest. They don't lie. They don't care about your feelings. They don't care about excuses. If you want a certain outcome, your actions, your mindset, your energy, and your focus have to be aligned with it. If the result isn't what you want, it's not proof that you're incapable. It's proof that something needs to change. And that's liberating because it puts the power squarely in your hands. You can't always control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. You can't always control other people, but you can control yourself. And that is where transformation begins. Think about it. Every setback is a teacher. Every challenge is a lesson. Every moment where you fall short is an opportunity to become smarter, stronger, and more prepared. The people who succeed fastest are not the ones who avoid mistakes. They're the ones who embrace them, study them, and use them as fuel. They become relentless learners. They take their results seriously, but they never take them personally. And that simple shift, the shift from judgment to curiosity, is one of the most powerful keys to taking full responsibility for your life. Let's take a moment to be brutally honest. Mistakes and setbacks are inevitable. Life is unpredictable. Things will not always go your way. You will encounter obstacles that feel impossible. You will face people who doubt you, environments that challenge you, and circumstances that seem unfair. And if you see those experiences as failure, you will shrink. But if you see them as feedback, you will grow. If you see them as information, you will become unstoppable. Every result is a mirror reflecting back to you where you are, what you're doing, and what you need to adjust. And the moment you embrace that mirror, the moment you stop denying it, the moment you stop running from it, you take control of your destiny. Now, I know it's not always easy to see it that way. When a plan fails, when a relationship ends, when a project collapses, it's natural to feel pain, disappointment, or frustration. That's human. But the question is, what do you do with that energy? Do you let it consume you, or do you let it guide you? Do you let it define you, or do you let it teach you? Taking responsibility doesn't mean ignoring your feelings. It means channeling them into action. It means saying, this happened. I feel this. Now, what can I do next? That is power. That is freedom. That is mastery. And here's the beauty of this mindset. When you treat results as feedback, you stow. Fearing failure, you stop hesitating. You stop overthinking. You take bold action, knowing that even if you stumble, you are learning. Even if you make a mistake, you are growing. Even if the world pushes back, you are gaining information that brings you closer to your vision. You become unstoppable because fear no longer controls your decisions. You no longer wait for perfect conditions. You no longer ask for permission. You simply act, adjust, and advance. That is what it means to take full responsibility for your life. I want you to imagine what would happen if you fully embrace this idea. What would happen if you stopped labeling setbacks as failure and started seeing them as feedback? You would start taking more risks. You would start pursuing bigger goals. You would stop holding yourself back out of fear. You would stop letting small disappointments derail your progress. You would move faster, learn faster, and achieve more than you ever thought possible, because growth is not about avoiding failure. It's about using every result, every experience, every outcome as a stepping stone toward your ultimate vision. Let me remind you, the only thing separating the life you have now from the life you want is how you interpret your results. Do you see them as judgment, as proof that you're not enough? Or do you see them as guidance, as information that shows you what to do next? Your choice determines everything. Your perspective determines your future. And the moment you make the choice to see results as feedback, you unlock a level of power, focus, and determination that most people never experience. So start today. Start right now. Stop calling outcomes failures. Stop giving your power to disappointment or frustration. Look at your life honestly. Look at your actions, your decisions, your habits. Look at the results you've been getting and ask the powerful quest. Ion. What is this telling me? What can I adjust? What can I learn? That simple question will change everything. That simple shift will move you from stagnation to momentum. That simple mindset will transform obstacles into opportunities and setbacks into stepping stones. Because when you take full responsibility and see your results as feedback, life stops being random. Life stops being unfair. Life becomes a reflection of you, your choices, your actions, your decisions, your focus. And that, my friends, is where true transformation begins. Feedback is not failure. Feedback is your guide. Leaders take ownership even when it's unfair. That's a statement that sounds simple, but if you feel it deeply, it can change everything about the way you approach life. Because here's the truth. Life is rarely fair. People don't always recognize your effort. Situations don't always go the way you plan. Sometimes, no matter how hard you work, no matter how much you prepare, things happen that feel completely undeserved. And in those moments, most people give up. They complain. They point fingers. They say, it's not fair. And it is true. It's not fair. Life doesn't owe you fairness. But here's the power shift. Leaders don't wait for fairness. Leaders take ownership anyway. Leaders step up anyway. Leaders act anyway. Taking ownership when it's unfair is what separates ordinary people from extraordinary people. Anyone can take responsibility when conditions are perfect. Anyone can step up when the path is smooth, when people support them, when luck is on their side. That's easy. That's comfortable. But leaders, the people who create massive impact, the people who achieve their dreams, they take responsibility when no one else will. When circumstances are stacked against them, when it feels like the world is pushing back at every step, they don't wait for permission. They don't walk for recognition. They don't wait for fairness. They act, they adjust, and they lead. And that is how transformation happens. You see, fairness is a trap if you let it be. Most people spend their lives waiting for fairness, waiting for the perfect timing, waiting for things to be right before they act. They say, I'll start my business when the market is better. I'll pursue my dream when the opportunity comes. I'll speak up when people will listen. And the truth is, that day rarely comes. Life doesn't work like that. If you wait for fairness, you are waiting for someone else to hand you permission to succeed, and that day may never come. But if you decide right now to take ownership no matter what, suddenly you are in control. Suddenly you are the force that shapes your life. Let me tell you something else that's critical to understand. Taking ownership when it's unfair doesn't mean you caused everything that went wrong. It doesn't mean you should feel guilty for circumstances outside your control. It means you refuse to let external events define your actions. It means you decide, no matter what happens, you are going to act with courage, with integrity, and with purpose. Leaders know that the world is unpredictable, but they also know that their response is always in their hands. And the moment you internalize that, you realize something amazing. The world cannot stop you unless you let it. The world cannot control you unless you hand over your power. Think about the people you admire most, the ones who inspire you, the ones who have achieved incredible results. None of them waited for fairness. None of them expected the universe to hand them their success neatly packaged. They faced setbacks, rejection, challenges, and often circumstances that were completely unjust. But they acted anyway. They embraced responsibility even when it was inconvenient. They embraced ownership even when it was uncomfortable. And that is why they rose above the crowd. That is why they are remembered. That is why their lives have impact. And here's something most people never realize. Taking ownership when it's unfair actually multiplies your power. Because when you refuse to be a victim, when you refuse to point fingers, when you refuse to wait for fairness, you gain something extraordinary, momentum. You gain clarity, you gain confidence, you become unstoppable because nothing outside of you can dictate your next move. You see opportunities where others see obstacles. You see solutions where others see problems. You see possibility where others see impossibility. That is what ownership does. That is what true leadership does. Now, I want you to pause and think about your own life. Where have you been waiting for fairness? Where have you been holding back because it wasn't right? Where have you blamed circumstances for your lack of progress? And here's the challenging question. What would happen if you stopped waiting? What would happen if you decided right now to take ownership, even when it's unfair? What doors would open? What opportunities would appear? What energy would ignite inside of you? Because the truth is, as soon as you stop waiting for the world to be fair, you stop being a passenger in your own life and you start driving toward your vision. Leaders understand that life is not about what happens to them. It's about how they respond. They know that external events cannot define their identity, their purpose, or their results. They know that ownership is not conditional. It is not dependent on fairness. It is not dependent on recognition. Ownership is a choice, and that choice, when made consistently, transforms everything. It transforms your relationships, your career, your influence, and your sense of self. It transforms fear into courage, doubt into certainty, and setbacks into stepping stones. Here's another truth that is often overlooked. Taking ownership when it's unfair builds resilience. It teaches you to adapt. It teaches you to persist. It teaches you that you are stronger than any circumstance, tougher than any challenge, and more capable than you ever imagined. Every time you take responsibility in an unfair situation, you grow. Every time you step up when others step back, you gain confidence, experience, and momentum. And eventually, you reach a point where unfairness no longer intimidates you, where obstacles no longer paralyze you, where challenges no longer stop you. That is the power of ownership. That is the power of leadership. That is the power that changes everything. And let me be real with you. Taking ownership when it's unfair is not easy. It requires courage. It requires discipline. It requires persistence. It requires looking at life honestly and saying, yes, this is not fair. Yes, this is hard. Yes, this is challenging, but I refuse to let it stop me. I will act. I will grow. I will lead. And the moment you make that decision, something remarkable happens. Your energy shifts. Your focus sharpens. Your potential becomes unlimited because you are no longer reacting to the world. You are creating your world. So here's the challenge I want you to feel right now. Wherever you have been waiting for fairness, step up. Wherever you have been blaming others, take ownership. Wherever you've been hoping for permission, give it to yourself. Because leaders are not defined by circumstances. They are defined by the choices they make, the actions they take, and the ownership they embrace. And the moment you do, you will see what I mean. Unfairness will no longer hold power over you. Obstacles will no longer intimidate you. And the life you once thought was out of reach will begin to unfold before your eyes. Ownership is not a burden. It is liberation. It is the fuel that drives your life forward. It is the power that makes you unstoppable. It is the choice that separates those who watch their lives happen from those who make their lives happen. And that choice, my friends, is yours. Responsibility creates emotional mastery, and that is a truth that will change everything about the way you live your life. Because think about this for a moment. Most people live their lives at the mercy of circumstances, at the mercy of other people, at the mercy of events they cannot control. Their emotions swing like a pendulum, rising when things go well and crashing when things go poorly. And the result? Frustration, anxiety, anger, stress, and a feeling that life is happening to them instead of through them. But when you take full responsibility, something extraordinary happens. You realize that no one and nothing can dictate your emotional state unless you allow it. Emotional mastery begins with ownership. It begins with the understanding that your feelings are not caused by other people, they are caused by the way you interpret and respond to what happens. When someone criticizes you, it is not the words themselves that hurt. It is the meaning you assign to those words. When a situation doesn't go your way, it is not the circumstance that frustrates you. It is the story you tell yourself about it. And the moment you recognize that, the moment you realize that your emotions are your responsibility, you gain a level of freedom that most people never experience. Because you no longer have to be controlled by external forces. You no longer have to wait for others to validate you. You no longer have to surrender your power to situations outside of your control. Imagine how powerful that is. Imagine walking into a room or facing a challenge or dealing with conflict and knowing that no one can shake your confidence, no one can steal your peace, no one can determine your state unless you choose to let them. That is emotional mastery. That is responsibility in action. And it is not just a mindset, it is a skill, a muscle, something you strengthen over time by consistently taking ownership of your reactions, your focus, and your energy. Most people live in reaction. They allow the world to tell them how to feel. If someone is rude, they get angry. If someone is unfair, they get frustrated. If a setback happens, they feel defeated. And that's because they have given their emotional power away. They have allowed their happiness, their peace, their confidence, and their focus to be dependent on forces they cannot control. And the truth is, when you give your emotional power away, you also give your life away. Your results, your relationships, your productivity, your influence, all of it suffers when you're at the mercy of your emotions instead of the master of them. But here's the game changer. When you take responsibility for your emotions, everything changes. Challenges no longer intimidate you. Criticism no longer paralyzes you. Conflict no longer drains you. You start responding with calm, clarity, and control. You start seeing solutions instead of problems. You start influencing situations instead of being influenced by them. And the most remarkable part, people notice. They are drawn to you. They trust you. They respect you. Emotional mastery is magnetic because it demonstrates that you are not controlled by circumstance. You are controlled by purpose. You are controlled by choice. You are controlled by responsibility. Let me be real with you. Emotional mastery does not mean suppressing your feelings. It does not mean pretending to be happy when you're not. It does not mean ignoring pain or frustration. T is not responsibility. That is avoidance. Emotional mastery means acknowledging your emotions fully, feeling them, understanding them, and then choosing how you will respond. It means saying, yes, this happened. Yes, I feel this. Now, how do I act? How do I move forward? That is the essence of responsibility. That is the essence of power. That is the essence of control over your life. Think about the people you admire most, the people who seem unshakable no matter what happens, the people who remain confident in chaos, calm under pressure, and focused in adversity. Do you think they never face setbacks, criticism, or challenges? Of course they do, but they have learned the skill of responsibility. They have learned to manage their state. They have learned that their results, their influence, and their happiness are not determined by circumstance. They are determined by how they respond, and that is why they are unstoppable. Let me challenge you to look at your own life. Where have you given your emotional power away? Where have you allowed frustration, anger, fear, or disappointment to dictate your decisions, your energy, or your results? And what would happen if you decided right now to reclaim that power? What would happen if you said, no one controls my state. No one controls my emotions. I am the master of my feelings. I am the master of my focus. I am the master of my life. The difference is immense. Your energy skyrockets. Your focus sharpens. Your relationships improve. Your results multiply. You become unstoppable because nothing outside of you can hold you back. Here's another truth. Emotional mastery is not just about strength. It's about freedom. When you take responsibility for your emotions, you are free to choose your path. You're free to pursue your goals without hesitation. You are free to speak your truth without fear. You are free to create the life you want without waiting for permission or approval. And the more consistently you practice this, the more natural it becomes. You begin to live at a higher level of consciousness, a higher level of control, a higher level of possibility. And let me remind you, this is not a small thing. Emotional mastery impacts everything: your health, your relationships, your productivity, your leadership, your influence, your confidence, your joy. When you take full responsibility for your emotions, you no longer waste energy on regret, resentment, or worry. Every ounce of your energy goes into growth, into action, into creating results. You become a force of nature because you are no longer reacting. You are responding. You are not a victim. You are a creator. And there is no power greater than that. I want you to feel this deeply. The moment you take responsibility for your emotions, you take responsibility for your life. There is no separation. Your emotional state drives your actions. Your actions drive your results. Your results shape your destiny. And the chain starts with responsibility. Every great leader, every high achiever, every person who has created extraordinary results knows this truth. They do not let their emotions control them. They control their emotions. They choose their state. They act with clarity and confidence no matter what happens around them. So here's your challenge. Stop blaming others for how you feel. Stop letting circumstances dictate your state. Stop giving your power away. Look in the mirror and say, this is my life. I am responsible for how I feel. I am responsible for how I act. I am responsible for the results I create, and I will master my emotions because I refuse to give anyone else control over my life. That is where true freedom begins. That is where true power begins. That is where transformation begins. Emotions are powerful. Responsibility is power. The day you take 100% responsibility is the day your life accelerates. And I want you to feel that truth deep in your bones because it is more powerful than you can imagine. Most people spend their lives waiting for permission, waiting for opportunity, waiting for the world to hand them what they think they deserve. They wait for circumstances to be perfect, for the timing to be right, for someone else to make the first move. And while they wait, their life slips away one moment at a time into the endless cycle of someday. But here's the truth. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you the life you dream of. The moment you realize that, the moment you decide to own your life completely, that is the moment everything changes. Taking 100% responsibility is not just a decision, it is a declaration. It is saying, no more waiting, no more blaming, no more excuses. My life is mine and I will create it no matter what. And when you make that declaration, something remarkable happens inside you. You feel a surge of energy, a sense of clarity, a rush of possibility. Suddenly, you see opportunities everywhere because you are no longer waiting for someone else to give you permission. You are no longer asking the world to cooperate. You are the driver. You are in control. And when you are in control, momentum becomes unstoppable. Here's what most people don't understand. Responsibility is not a burden. It is liberation. It is the ultimate freedom. Because when you take responsibility, you stop being a victim. You stop letting circumstances define your potential. You stop giving your power away to other people, other events, other situations, and that freedom is exhilarating. It's the kind of an urge. Why that fuels massive action, bold decisions, and extraordinary results. It is the energy that moves ordinary people to do extraordinary things. Let me break it down for you. When you take 100% responsibility, you stop waiting for conditions to be perfect. You stop hoping for luck. You stop blaming others for what you haven't achieved. You stop complaining about unfair circumstances. And instead, you start asking the most powerful question you can ask: what can I do right now to change this? What can I control? What action can I take that will move me closer to my vision? That single question changes everything because it shifts your focus from limitation to opportunity, from excuses to solutions, from victimhood to ownership. Think about it. Every person you admire, the ones who have achieved extraordinary success, influence, or impact, they all took responsibility. They all realized that waiting for permission or blaming others only delays results. They all embraced the uncomfortable truth that they alone are responsible for the life they live. And the moment they accepted that truth, they began to accelerate. And acceleration is powerful. Once you stop waiting, once you stop blaming, once you stop making excuses, momentum takes over. Every action compounds. Every decision builds on the last. Every day you take ownership moves you closer to the life you once thought was impossible.